Blazing Strike is a 2D pixel art based fighter that is reminiscent of the 16-bit era of fighting games, and this indie developed game has so much that is rooted in that era. Specifically more the SNK experiences than say the Capcom or Midway games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. This feels like more of something in line with Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, Art of Fighting. And one of the main reasons for that is the rush system that is associated with the gameplay. Beyond having just heavy strike, light strike, when it comes to punches and kicks, the ability to throw opponents when you're close to them, and of course pull off special maneuvers with certain button presses like down down punch or quarter circle forward, with the heavy or light buttons influencing not only the power but also the speed of those attacks, those special maneuvers, those projectiles. You have the rush mechanic. With a touch of the button you can rush forward or even dash backward, though dashing backward with the rush button will still leave you open for an attack because you're still not blocking. And you can rush forward and hit a few buttons here and there and pull off some pretty wicked combos that you can turn into special maneuvers or even cancel those special maneuvers into a longer string of combos. But the rush mechanic is also built on a stamina gauge that sits above your health bar. And if it does go empty, not only will you not be able to rush, but if you get hit with an empty stamina bar, you will be left stunned. So you have to be aware of how much stamina you have, especially if you're trying to utilize those rush combos. Underneath every character's health bar is a super bar that fills up as you perform successful attacks or blocking, including pulling off a perfect block, which can happen if you are able to block right before you hit, and can negate not only damage but also will temporarily stun an opponent and leave them open for a counterattack. These super attacks range from character to character. They're not all just offensive based attacks. Certain characters can pull off delay based attacks or defensive measures. One of my favorite characters that I've discovered is Mateo, who not only is a combo machine when he's in regular mode, but will turn into a demon temporarily with his super. And even though he can't perform special attacks temporarily with the demon form, he can do some heavy damage and pretty much void any damage he takes. So depending on the character, you will have these better experiences when unleashing a super in the middle of a round than you will certain other characters, but of course that comes with the territory in regards to fighting games. On normal difficulty, I didn't feel that the game was that difficult at all. The AI doesn't feel cheap, it doesn't feel abusive, it feels like it knows what it's trying to do while also challenging you as a player. And that is something that you will probably have to get used to if you are a fan of this game and don't have anyone else to play with, because it must be stated on the onset, one of the key things about any fighting game, especially in 2024 and beyond, is the ability to play online. And while this game does have that ability, yours truly was unable to find a single fight the entire time trying to play this game online. Not a one. I didn't even get a match and it disconnected midway through. I literally could not find a single opponent online to play against, which was rather distressing because the game doesn't really have that many extra things going for it in regards to mode offerings. Of course, you have training mode, you have versus mode, which will allow you for couch co-op if you do have someone that wants to play with you or has the skills to play with you. You also have arcade mode, which you will have to play against a set amount of opponents in a sequential order. Unfortunately, one of the key things about any arcade mode is the ability to see character-specific endings after you've defeated the arcade ladder. This game doesn't have that, unfortunately. So after you beat arcade mode, that's it. It's nothing really beneficial other than trying to get trophies and achievements of completing arcade mode with more than one character. One of the biggest single-player aspects that is both interesting and downright disappointing is the story mode. Story mode is a visual novel based presentation with no voice acting, huge text boxes, gratuitous amounts of exposition, talking about a dystopian world where fighters have to overcome this mechanized and potential alien threat by joining forces from across whatever universe they're existing in at this time. And while most of the characters that you are interacting with in story mode are actually quite interesting, their designs and correlations and just in general presentations in this universe doesn't make much sense. And after you get through this 2.5 hour slog of visual novel based text action with about 12 fights, that includes 3 major boss battles, you get the big to be continued at the end, as if to give you any excitement about the continuation of this story, that a lot could be said with a lot less. In reality, a well thought out arcade ladder with character specific motivations and maybe even cutscenes in between would have been more fitting and would have been more enjoyable than what the story mode presentation offered. It would have given more character interactions and depth between these characters than what the story mode provided, or even grander reasoning as to why these characters are doing the things that they're doing, why they are fighting, and essentially why they are who they are. Graphically, the game looks mostly good. The pixel art does work well a majority of the time, though some of the backgrounds seem a little overly pixelated. And speaking of stages, certain stages actually have interactables that will do damage if certain characters interact with those interactables, like a crane hook or even a twister that will pull characters in closer to their opponents for, of course, those rush combos. There are also some animation issues when it comes to just collision detection. The sound is good, the music is solid, the announcer is somewhat grating at times, especially the almost inaudible statement that they make at the end of any arcade ladder, which is really weird. It sounds absolutely terrible.
You've overcome every obstacle. The fire of the champion blazes in your every strike.
Now, it has been stated that there will be an update to get cross-play for the game to prevent the fact that the online scene is practically dead, which would hopefully open it up a lot more for players like myself who are playing on the PlayStation 5, so we can be able to play long-standing players on PC and Xbox. But even with that, it still hurts the core audience that it's already a struggle to get a online game started because of a lack of players on one dedicated service. Overall, the biggest hurdle when it comes to the success of this game and more people buying it is the price tag. It is listed at $40 USD at release, and considering the time that it came out during one of the busiest Octobers we've seen in years when it comes to video games, it is so easy for a game like this to get lost in the shuffle, especially at that price. Add that to the fact that the modes are relatively lacking, the art style isn't necessarily conducive of and pulling in newer fighting gamers that may not have grown up during that 16-bit era or aren't nostalgic for that type of fighter, as you have 2D games like Street Fighter and King of Fighters and Mortal Kombat that mix the two realms together of 2D fighters but with modern graphics. Couple that with the fact that you have an online functionality that cuts off a majority of the player base by not having crossplay at the beginning of release, and you have a game that unfortunately feels like it's going to be lost to the sands of time. And it doesn't warrant that, because from a gameplay perspective, it's actually quite enjoyable. It's just unfortunate that at this time, the price and the timing that it was released officially is just the worst of both worlds. I recommend buying it at $40 if you feel like you can handle that type of price. You may want to wait until the fire dies down or the price drops down with it.